This is your weekly report on corruption in the Philippine government. Was killed after he was shot by two unidentified men on a motorcycle in Rizal, Cagayan. The Cagayan Police Provincial Office identified the victim as Roberto de Ocampo, 50, of Anacharo. Investigation showed that Ocampo and his wife were in their pickup truck traversing the provincial road in Barangay Gumarang in Piat Town on Wednesday when the suspects shot them. The victim sustained gunshot wounds in different parts of his body and was immediately brought by responding police officers to the Tuao District Hospital but was declared dead on arrival. His wife survived the shooting incident. The police said the suspects immediately fled the scene on a Silver Grain Max motorcycle. A local government official in Lobo Town in Batangas province was shot and killed by a lone gunman on Thursday night. The Batangas police reported Friday, the 12th of August that Romeo Sulit, 61, the municipal council secretary, was delivering a speech around 8 p.m. at a debut party in Barangay Tayuman, when an assailant approached him from behind and shot him. The gunman wore a green jacket, black shorts, and a hat. He fled on foot and left his target with a fatal bullet wound at the back of his head. The police said Sulit, a former vice mayor of Lobo, was brought to Batangas Medical Center in Batangas City for treatment. Captain Roy Cuevas, Lobo police chief, said Sulit died at 12:34 a.m. The Bureau of Customs, BOC, has allowed 974 importers to continue transactions despite violating laws and rules. The Commission on Audit, COA, said in its report. COA said the importers should have been suspended instead of being allowed to import 77,049 consumption entries with assessed duties and taxes amounting to 28.954 billion pesos. State auditors noted that 644 of the 974 importers have records of violations, seizure, abandonment and smuggling, while 330 were habitual violators of importation with generic description. When left uncorrected, this may cause the breakdown of risk controls, which will significantly affect the efficient implementation of accreditation and defeats the purpose of accreditation, the audit team said. The audit report also noted that the BOC management agreed to the recommendations of the audit team, including ensuring that the account management office is furnished with all the warrants of seizure and detention as well as abandonment cases. The report further mentioned the importation of 553 regulated commodities costing 1.44 billion pesos in duties and taxes which were processed and released despite lack of import permits and other documents. Included in the 1.44 billion pesos duties and taxes are 684.028 million pesos from the importation of luxury vehicles which were assessed and released without necessary permits and other documents. The audit team also flagged the inconsistent and inappropriate tagging of the BOC within their system for a total of 100,944 consumption entries with assessed duties and taxes of 122.146 billion pesos. The BOC uses a color-coded system in its system using colors such as green to signify release without further inspection, red for X-ray scanning and physical examination, among others. The audit team noted that 5,989 entires amounting to 1.733 billion pesos which should have been tagged as red were released without conducting 100% physical inspection. There was also an understatement of 105.108 million pesos on duties and taxes for the importation of 765 commodities due to deficient computation of insurance. The non-compliance by the BOC with the prescribed computations could affect the collection of total duties and taxes accruing from the importations, thus, a possible loss of revenue, the audit team said. Courts are not the forum to plead for sympathy. The duty of courts is to apply the law, disregarding their feeling of sympathy or pity for an accused. Thus declared the Sandiganbayan as it turned down the motion filed by former Local Water Utilities Administration, LWA, Chief and ex-Rep. Prospero Apiche Jr. and Deputy Acting Administrator Wilfredo M. Felia to reconsider the court's decision that convicted them of 3 graft charges. In his motion for reconsideration, Piche highlighted the disparity between the offense charged emanating from bad business decision-making of a public official and entailing criminal liability. If every mistake, error, or oversight is met with criminal punishment, then qualified individuals would be hindered in serving the government, Piche said. In a resolution issued last the 10th of August, the anti-graft court said, after turning all stones, the court finds no sufficient justification to warrant abandonment of our earlier ruling. Piche and Felia were sentenced to a prison term ranging from 18 to 30 years in the purchase of the Express Savings Bank, Inc. SBI, when they were top LWA officials in 2009. The criminal charges arose from LWA's purchase of ESBI, a local thrift bank based in Laguna through Wellix Group Incorporated, WGI, and Forum Pacific Incorporated, FPI. The anti-graft court said that as head of the LWA board, Piche approved the acquisition of ESBI even without securing the regulatory approvals from the Monetary Board of the Banco Central ng Pilipinas, MBBSP, the Department of Finance, DOF, and the Office of the President. It cannot be denied that accused Piche and Felia knew of this requirement, as they have been in consultation with the Office of the President, DOF, and BSP. They were specifically advised to secure prior approval of the Monetary Board. This advice was given before LWA purchased the ESBI shares, the court said. The court said that Piche and Felia may not have been impelled by patently fraudulent and dishonest purpose, since they were merely carrying out a lawful mandate. However, the court pointed out that they carried out the task with haphazardness and non-conforming ways. Even assuming that accused did not act in bad faith or with manifest partiality, their negligence under the circumstances was not only gross but also inexcusable, the court stressed. A 43-year-old policeman was shot dead by gunmen on board a motorcycle here Saturday, the 13th of August. Police Colonel Rancer Ivasco, Nueva Vizcaya Police Chief, identified the victim as Police Senior Master Sergeant Aldwin Aspacio James, a Baguio City resident. Ivasco, quoting field reports, said James, a field training officer of the local police, was gunned down on Manalansan Street, Purok 3, Barangay Homestead. Police here said the victim had just arrived at his boarding house when he was killed by the suspects riding a matte grey Yamaha NMAX motorcycle without license plates. James sustained 6 bullet wounds and was taken to a hospital where he was declared dead. The gunmen fled towards the bypass road in this town. A casual employee of the city government of Cadiz in Negros Occidental was arrested in a buy-bust operation in Barangay Tinampa on Saturday, the 13th of August. Police identified the suspect as Charlie Bacroya, 43, of Barangay Tinampan, who was assigned at the city veterinary office. Police Lieutenant Colonel Gil John Despy, Cadiz City Police Chief, said Bacroya is their top 2 priority target at the police station. Despy said that they have been monitoring the suspect for some time. Police recovered from Bacroya 1.8 grams of suspected shabu worth 12,240 pesos in the 500 pesos marked money. Bacroya is considered a high-value individual, according to the police. A former Zamboanga del Sur town mayor escaped conviction for malversation of public funds but must pay a fine of 50,000 pesos under a plea bargaining deal that saw him plead guilty to the lesser charge of failing to render accounts. In its decision dated the 10th of August, the Sandigan Bayan 5th Division found Wilson Nandang, former mayor of Labangan, guilty of 10 counts of violating Section 218. Failure of accountable officer to render accounts of the revised penal code, RPC, and ordered him to pay a fine of 5,000 pesos for each count. The graft court also granted the prosecution's motion for the dismissal of 10 counts of violation of Article 217, malversation of public funds, against Nandang. A plea bargaining agreement was approved by the ombudsman for the malversation charges to be dropped after the accused entered a plea of guilty to a lesser charge. In 2018, the ombudsman said Nandang received 10 cash advances for travel expenses from January to the 20th of August 11, totaling 1,250,000 pesos. Despite demands from the Commission on Audit, COA, he failed to liquidate and account for the cash advances. Donations made to the Philippine National Police totaling 267.85 million pesos remain unrecorded in its books of accounts, according to the latest audit report of the Commission on Audit, COA. As of end of 2021, the donations received by the PNP remain unrecorded due to the non-submission of deeds of donation and other relevant documents by logistics officers to their respective accounting units. Included in the list are 49 units of Hyundai Elantra and 81 Sterux vans donated from 2017 to 2020 by the Republic of Korea to regional and provincial offices as well as offices in the PNP headquarters. Moreover, we gathered information from PNP's annual reports and news articles and have noted that the following donations were not yet recorded in the books of accounts, the state auditors said. The list also included 22 units of Toyota Grandia donated by the Public Safety Savings and Loans Association, 4 units of Toyota Hilux from Civic West Properties Corporation, 2 units of Toyota Hilux from Rotary Club Makati Central, all donated in 2020. 3.65 million pesos worth of equipment such as scuba gear and other training equipment were donated by the United States government from 2020 to 2021, as quoted by the audit team from various news articles. The audit team noted that the PNP management agreed to the recommendations, among others, to promptly submit copies of the deeds of donation and other documents for all unrecorded donated properties. A police manhunt is underway against a group behind the ambush slay of a former village chief and his worker in Barangay Kidimahir on Sunday evening. Lieutenant Colonel Jingle Paralag, town police chief, identified Monday the victims as Felipe Sara Malunda, 61, former chairperson of Barangay Kidima, and Joseph Mariano Flores, a laborer and resident of Alameda Town, North Cotabato Province. Paralag said Malunda was driving his sedan together with Flores on their way to Barangay Kilida when gunmen positioned on both sides of the road at a local sugarcane plantation opened fire on them around 7 p.m. Both victims were brought to separate hospitals here but were declared dead on arrival by the attending physicians. The victims obtained fatal wounds in different parts of their body, she said. Police recovered 8 pieces of empty shells from an M16 rifle, another empty shell from a .45 caliber pistol, and other pieces of evidence. The suspects swiftly ran into the sugarcane plantation after the incident, Paralag said. Our investigation is ongoing, she said, declining to give more information so as not to jeopardize police operation. The Sandigan Bayan has affirmed its earlier ruling convicting former National Irrigation Administration, NIA, Chief Carlos Salazar in connection with a dam project initiated in 2009 without approval from the National Economic and Development Authority, NEDA. In a resolution promulgated on the 3rd of August, the anti-graft court said Salazar failed to raise in his appeal substantial or compelling matters that would warrant the reversal of the decision finding him guilty of violating Republic Act 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. The anti-graft court earlier sentenced Salazar to 6 to 8 years in prison and perpetually disqualified him from holding public office. The court ordered Salazar, who was NIA administrator during the presidency of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, to indemnify the agency 98.55 million pesos or equivalent to the amount of NIA funds found to have been illegally dispersed. Filed by the Office of the Ombudsman in 2018. The case stemmed from a 712.37 million peso contract that Salazar entered into with AM Orita on the 8th of May, 2009 for the construction of the Libman and Cabuseo diversion dam in Camarines Sur. The Ombudsman said the contract was awarded to AM Orita without prior approval from the NADA Investment Coordination Committee, which was required under Executive Order 230 of the reorganized NEDA Charter. The Ombudsman said that 2 days after the signing of the contract, Salazar issued a notice to proceed with the project, allowing the firm to collect an advance payment of 98.5 million pesos. The project, which was supposed to be constructed in Sipacot River, was called off due to opposition from local communities and environmental groups. The Quezon City Police District, QCPD, has relieved its officer after it was identified that he is the registered owner of the vehicle that figured in a hit-and-run incident that killed a tricycle driver and injured a passenger. In a statement on Tuesday, the QCPD said Lieutenant Colonel Mark Julio Abong, chief of the QCPD Criminal Investigation and Detection Unit, will be reassigned to the District Personnel Holding and Accounting Section while the investigation is ongoing. It noted, however, that Abong had denied responsibility for the incident and claimed that a certain Ronald Centino, who was responsible for the maintenance of the vehicle, drove the same without his consent when the accident happened. Abong and Centino are facing complaints for reckless imprudence resulting in homicide, physical injury, and damage to property. Members of the anti-scalawag unit of the Philippine National Police, PNP, on Monday arrested 3 Manila policemen who allegedly tried to extort 2,000 pesos from a driver whose tricycle was earlier impounded by the group. In a statement Tuesday, Brigadier General Warren de Leon, chief of the PNP Integrity Monitoring and Enforcement Group, IMEG, identified the suspects as Staff Sergeant Erwin Licuazon, 34, Corporal Chimbaran Porter, 33, and Patrolman Leopoldo Tuason, 39. They were arrested at around 10:45 p.m. inside the Parco Police Community Precinct located at the corner of Pedro Gil and Angel Lineo STS in Parco, Manila. De Leon said the operation stemmed from the complaint of tricycle operator Frederick Alba, 34, of Sampaloc, Manila, who said the driver of his tricycle was apprehended for a traffic violation on the 14th of August. He said the suspects demanded 2,000 pesos in exchange for the release of the tricycle, which was impounded. The suspects were arrested after receiving the 2,000 pesos marked money from the complainant during the entrapment. Recovered from the suspects were the marked money, 3 mobile phones, a blotter book, 6 pieces of magazines with ammunition, and a motorcycle with an orange sidecar. Their service firearms were also confiscated. The suspects are now under the custody of the IMEG headquarters in Camp Crame, Quezon City, for proper documentation before inquest proceedings. Philippine National Police, PNP, Chief General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. has ordered police commanders to exercise disciplinary authority over their personnel. Azurin issued the directive after records from the PNP Integrity Monitoring and Enforcement Group, IMEG, showed that 92 cases have been filed before the courts against policemen accused of robbery and extortion in July. If you are not going to do your job, then the entire police station or substation will be relieved and they will be replaced with more responsible and accountable PNP personnel. Azurin said in a statement, a policeman who is wanted for kidnapping with rape was apprehended in Taguig on Tuesday. Azurin identified the suspect as Patrolman Jerome Arroyo, who was assigned with the MPD. Arroyo was nabbed based on a warrant of arrest issued by Judge Ann Beatriz Bomacid of the Manila Regional Trial Court Branch 27. Azurin reminded police officers that they could be held administratively liable based on the doctrine of command responsibility. State auditors have flagged the Department of Health over the millions worth of COVID-19 related items that were not properly distributed to their intended recipients. In a 2021 audit report released on the 15th of August, the Commission on Audit, COA, said items amounting to at least 185,602,876 pesos were either not received by the intended recipients, not received at all, or insufficient or excessive. According to COA, 166.2 million pesos worth of items were delivered to agencies other than the intended recipients, 18.5 million pesos were not received by intended recipients, and 835,402 pesos show discrepancies between the quantities indicated and the actual quantities received. The state auditors said this indicated inefficiency in the distribution system of said government assets, exposing them to risks of loss, misuse, or wastage. The items were purchased by the Procurement Service of the Department of Budget and Management, PSDBM. Using the funds transferred by the DOH, the deliveries were made by the PSDBM through third-party logistics. COA said the items worth 166.2 million pesos were supposed to be delivered to the Cagayan Valley Center for Health Development, CHD, the Southern Isabela Medical Center, and the Ninoy Aquino Stadium covered site. However, items totaling 54 million pesos were received by the Office of the Civil Defense, while 108.6 million pesos were received by individuals whose offices or agencies could not be identified. The agency also said that 150,000 masks amounting to 3.4 million pesos were delivered to the Caraga CHD instead of the Northern Mindanao CHD. Meanwhile, state auditors said 6 agencies indicated in the PTRs confirmed that they did not receive the COVID-19 items totaling 18.5 million pesos. These were the Northern Mindanao CHD, the Dr. Jose Rizal Memorial Hospital, Magasa Tubig Regional Hospital, the Department of the Interior and Local Government, the Department of Education, and the Maria Lourdes Maternity Hospital. The Metro Manila CHD and the Caraga CHD, meanwhile, disclosed discrepancies between the quantities indicated in the distribution list and the actual quantities delivered that were either less or more. That's all for this week. I'll see you next week with more stories of corruption and foolishness within the Philippine government.